My apologies if this is a bit of a long video, but what I wanted to try and capture here was what it's like to ride from the Warringah area up to the Five Dock shops with kids. Now this was shot back in 2017 when the kids were 8 and 11, and we can just see the difficulties in trying to get up to Coles and Five Dock with kids that are certainly old enough to be riding on their own. You can see here this is when the Five Dock area was being redone by council. The flowers haven't been put in yet, and the road improvements are still going on, and council in their wisdom decided not to put any kind of bike infrastructure through here when they clean this whole area up. So of course we're forced to ride on the road, ride on the footpath, because there's just no way in hell I'm going out there on the road with the kids. And I still wouldn't do this today, 2 years later, when they're more grown up. So we're on the footpath, which is really not the best place to be. Now you can see all the way along here there's lots and lots of shops, nowhere to park bikes safely. It's pretty horrible trying to lock them up to the power poles. There's lots of blank walls there where if there was a loop you could put a bike chain through, you could lock them up. You could go to the butcher, you could go to this Vietnamese place, there's hairdressers, all those sorts of things that you could ride here from Warringah or Abbotsford as an adult in 5 minutes, more like 10 minutes if you've got kids. But it's just not bike friendly. It's purely set up for driving here. Now, poor old Sebi, he's 8, he's run out of puff getting up this hill, so we just have to stop here for a sec and I'll give him a push. But as you can see, we're outside the Five Dock Meat Market, and if I want to go in and buy some chops, for instance, there's nowhere for me to lock the bike up, is there? And we keep on struggling up the hill. We'll get past Jada's Cafe, and there's the Henry Street cross street, and this is a nightmare to get across with kids because of the angle of the ramps that have been put in. You can see the youngest is struggling to get up the other side because of the slope of the angle. It's not very well designed, and sight lines up Henry Street are atrocious, so getting across here is quite nasty. This is a good reason why there should be a raised crossing across here to make it a pedestrian priority, and to slow down drivers that come screaming out of Henry Street. They like to run past Five Dock Public and pop out of Henry Street and get out of there as rapidly as humanly possible. Now we keep on going up the hill, and we're going to go past Rocco's Cafe and another cafe, and there's lots of people sitting on the pavement. It's all very nice, it's all very Five Docky, this is how it should be, but we have to squeeze in between the tables and the cafe, which is really not a good thing. But again, this is council's fault for not putting in some properly separated safe bike infrastructure out there on the road, and forcing people like us to ride on the footpath, it's just not an optimal solution for anybody. But that's the decision council made. They wanted to prioritise parking over people moving around on foot or by bike, and now we're copping the consequences of that decision. So we keep on going a bit further up the hill, and you can see there's lots more destination shops here. There's a gym, there's banks, there's more cafes, there's yet again more butchers. And if I want to go to any of these butchers, I like going to Caminiti's, for instance, because I think they're the best. Nowhere to park the bike out the front. It's just crazy. Why? It's not like I'm going to the butcher to buy a shopping trolley full of meat. I'm going there to buy a couple of steaks for dinner. I can walk home with those steaks in a bag quite easily, or I can just chuck them in the panniers on the bike, or even just a little backpack and ride up there and get some steak. It's not like you're doing the weekly shop and you've got to fill a boot with food. If you're living within a kilometre or so of the Five Dock shops, you should be able to get up here really easily to do things like, hey, I want some steak for dinner. I need 3 steaks. That's going to weigh, maximum 600 grams? Do I really need to drive a 2-ton 4-wheel drive 1 kilometre to the shops to buy 600 grams of steak? And the answer pretty clearly is no. If I need to go into the bank to get a credit card back after it's been eaten by the ATM, where do I lock my bike up? Well, there's nowhere to do it. Anyway, we finally get to Coles, which has the only secure bike parking in the area, and not much of it at that. But that's just an indication of what it's like to ride up through Five Dock. Obviously, getting back down the hills a hell of a lot faster than this. But this is why we have parking problems and congestion in the area, because driving really is the only solution or the only alternative for most people, and that's because of design decisions that council has made in the past.